Yes, YouTube. So I'm just gonna break down this trade that I took back testing. I did actually record it, but um, it ran out of space and I kept getting phone calls. So I'm just gonna actually just break it down instead and talk about everything I was thinking about to catch this trade. So from the very get go, I'm just gonna go to one page. So from the very get go, we was building the context, building where the next draw liquidity is gonna be, and I think this has been what I've been missing. This is what I've been missing, right? Because when I think of AMD, I zoom out and I look at the overall bigger picture, right? And I go, okay, these are all accumulated highs. This is a manipulation above them highs. We've distributed back in, so all these lows are next. Bang, 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 right? And that's a good. There's sense in looking at it like that. It makes sense, but this thing that I'm good at and the thing that gives me confidence and conviction in the trade is knowing where the next draw on liquidity is going to be. So instead of being like, okay, overall the biggest wave possible, the tsunami wave is this. I care about the smaller waves inside of the tsunami wave, and all that means is going in and something I forgot that I used to say all the time is low hanging fruit. Target the low hanging fruit because it's always the easiest thing to get. For example, in this situation, obviously hindsight now, I've took this the trade is coming. It's obvious that this high is gonna go before this low is gonna go. Right, these are the next two candles. This is where the next two areas of liquidity are gonna be, that high or that low. So to look at that is so obvious that it's gonna be that, right? But it could also take this high, this high, this high. It's probably going to come into that gap. It could take this high, could take that high. Like, it could do all of this stuff. But the confidence comes from being like, okay, where's it going to go next? Where is the most obvious place that it's going to go next? Right, so I can't lie, in terms of AMD, this was a banging setup as well. Look at that, like that is just the most perfect, picture perfect AMD. We don't we don't just come down on a small time frame, we come down on a 1 hour time frame, tap into this massive gap, sweep all of it with a nice size, come right back up without hesitating, and then we're heading towards that high, right? Um, right, so then I drop down further, and this is where it comes in, right? Having a draw in liquidity means having a higher, to be honest, a higher time frame trade idea. Whether this is AMD or whether this is just going through and saying, okay, look, this swept liquidity, inverted this gap, inverted these gaps. We're in a higher time frame area. We've took a load of liquidity. Whether this is an AMD setup or not, to be seeing this, and it's interesting because when you look at it on a 1 hour or a 4 hour, this seems like instantly it's gonna hit. But when I saw it on this, I watched it come all the way up from here, and I'm being patient. I'm like, okay, cool. I know this is my draw liquidity. I just need to be patient here. Then I watched it come accumulate here. We came down, took into this gap, and I was waiting for this. Annoyingly, we came and took the high of that range. So I'm like, okay, cool. Can't get in that yet. Just be patient. Just be patient. We've come even closer to the target. I'm like, okay, be patient. Might come back. Still don't. Still, I've got my target, but I don't have my setup yet. And then I see that we're accumulating here, and I'm like, okay, where can we go that makes sense to take liquidity, but also makes sense to respect that we're still going higher? So this looks like a weird trade, to be honest, to be taking that small 5 minute gap. But the reason I took it was because we accumulated here between this high and this low here. This low was the last one that took liquidity and broke structure. So I was like, technically, if we are still bullish, that should be protected, and so should that. So where are we going here is the question I was asking. And then it's like, okay, zooming into the 1 minute, we took that, didn't see anything crazy, and then we took this big gap, inverted the gap. I didn't want to get in too premature, so I just waited for the 5 minute inversion, got in there, and we absolutely blasted off. And we should come to this high. Like, it's not as assured now, because even though we should come to that high, we could come lower again. But what I'm saying is, to add all those pieces of the puzzle together is what gives a trade it's serious conviction. Like, for example, now I've got this higher time frame target. Still, this is still the target, but we don't have a trade set up now. And the reason, and the fact that we've come all this way down here says, okay, we're going to take some bigger liquidity before we go for that target. And remembering that the draw and liquidity can change. Like, realistically, most recent low-hanging fruit now is going to be that. Like, why have we got that close to that high and then inverted that? So I'm not saying that this is going to be the trade I'm going to take, but now, if that's the draw and liquidity, that's what I think is going to be next. Then we can start looking at the patterns that start forming between this high and this low, which, in other words, is a target and a protected swing and a protected area. So if this is my draw and liquidity, this is an area that if we come up to there, it's invalid. And this is the area where I think that we should go. So now all it is really is just watching the behaviour in between those two areas. And whether you can get the trade or not is completely out of your control, but it's just being patient and waiting for it. Does look like this is going to go. It doesn't look like it's going to give us an entry. But let's see. Let's sneeze. Shoot. Is it going to give us an entry? Again, now, this is the next immediate draw liquidity. Doesn't mean we forgot about this one. It's just like, okay, if the pattern was right here, and if it still is right, if it comes back down heavy, then this might go. But it's all got to be right. It's all got to make sense. 5 minute, yeah, we've inverted here, but we haven't closed into the range, so I wouldn't take that yet. It's 3 minutes looking the most likely if I take this. Still haven't inverted this heavily yet. I hope I'm not ill. Alright, this is looking less and less likely now, because the pattern isn't doing its thing. And so if we come and take this high now, I'd scrap this whole draw liquidity idea, because this should be protected if this is the right area of the leg. Okay, cool, so I'd change. But anyway, the point is, patience comes from being like, okay, this is how price is behaving. This is how price is behaving now, and then you zoom in deeper to the deeper details, the deeper data, and go, okay, inside of how it's behaving there, can I find a move inside of that? And it's not just being like I said, it's not just being like, okay, that took that high, so these are the next lows. That's not good enough. That is not good enough. That is a bias. That is an idea of just a direction. Like, this is what's good enough. Having that as a protected low and that as a target, and then being like, okay, for now, I'm gonna look at I'm gonna look deeper inside of this price action and be like, what patterns are forming within those two parameters that I've set for myself, that and that. And that's where confident trades come, and I think that's where winning trades come. And look, drawing liquidity hit. Yeah, in hindsight, I could have took a trade all the way down here. I could have. Obviously, this one, I could have took this 1 hour inversion. I could have took these 30-minute inversions, 15-minute inversion, whatever it is. I could have took them all, but the conviction that these aren't always going to win without a target. You need a target.